Well, a warm welcome to today's talk, Monday the 27th of February. Now, I've had hundreds of questions asking about, is there another pandemic starting in Cambodia from avian flu, from bird flu? And the short answer is no, there's not at the moment, but there is a risk and there are things to discuss. So there's not an influenza pandemic started in Cambodia as we speak, so it's fairly good news. So if you need to skip this video, then we'll see you in the next one. But if you've got time, it is really quite interesting. Now, let's start off with the background here. Avian influenza A. So this is the sort of the transmissible sort of influenza A. And this form, or this subvariety of influenza A, is called H5N1. So that's the current concern at the moment. And tragically, 11-year-old girl died of H5N1 in Cambodia. Now, what happened here was this 11-year-old girl contracted the condition, and they tested people round about her to see if they had it as well, to see if there's person-to-person transmission. And they actually found the same virus in her father. So the question, he wasn't that ill, but they found the same virus. So the question was, had the child got it from the father from the child, or had they got it both from the same infected poultry, was the question. And it looks like they probably got it from the same infected group of poultry rather than gave it to each other, is what it looks like at the moment. Whatever, it's not spreading in Cambodia on a person-to-person basis. So that's what happened. Father tested positive for H5N1. Now, human-to-human transmission does happen. It's rare, it's very rare, but it's not impossible. And of course, there's always the possibility of a mutation or a recombination with another influenza virus that could make it transmissible. Now, why is this a particular concern? And it is a concern. Cambodia, there's good records for 2003 to 2014. There was 56 human cases. Now, all of these human cases, all 56 of these human cases, were caught from birds and poultry. They were not person-to-person transmission, but of these 56 people, 37 of them died. So massively high case fatality rate in Cambodia. And if we look at the rest of the world, where there's a bit more data, 2003 to February 2023, so bang up to date, in this period of time, this virus has been circulating for a long time in poultry. 873 human cases with H5N1, but well over half tragically died, and that's from 21 countries. So the thing here is the very high potential case fatality rate. Now, if this did become much more transmissible by mutating or by recombining with another virus, then it's likely that it would become less infectious. As it became more transmissible, rather, it would become less pathogenic. So more infectious, less pathogenic is the likely outcome. But of course, we don't know. We can never guarantee that. But that's the most likely thing. But it could still have a very high case fatality rate, way higher than COVID, obviously, if we had anything like those figures. So it is a bit of a concern. Now, this report on the 23rd of February 2023, Cambodia International Health Regulations National Focus Point. So the Cambodians did well on this. They got their act together pretty quickly and got this reported. Confirmed human infection with an avian influenza A, so that in itself is noteworthy. But then the second case was reported the day after, on the 24th. First two cases of avian influenza A, H5N1, reported in Cambodia since 2014. So we've had a long period of time in Cambodia where, although this particular virus has been endemic in poultry, it has not spread to people. So it's rare that it spreads to people, but when it does, it's got a very high case fatality rate. The question is, will it mutate? Will it recombine to make it more transmissible? And so far, the answer is no. So December in Cambodia to December 2003, 2014, all human cases have been derived directly from poultry. They're not due to human-to-human transmission. All human cases due to poultry-to-human transmission, not human-to-human. Now, this case, referred on the 21st of February 2023, attended the National Pediatric Hospital in Phnom Penh with severe pneumonia. This is the 11-year-old, of course. Tested positive for avian influenza by a polymerase chain reaction, PCR. Now, these have got a bit of a bad press in the COVID pandemic. The cycles have been too high, but when properly used, it is a very good test for influenza. I've personally been using it in hospitals for a long time. It's a very reliable test if properly used, and with no reason to suspect it wasn't properly used in this case. And this was confirmed by the Institute Pasteur in Cambodia as well. So we've got a double, triple diagnosis, actually. Tragically, this 11-year-old girl died on the 22nd of February. Now, Cambodia shared the genetic sequence data straight away. Excellent levels of transparency in Cambodia compared to other countries, other country or countries that could be mentioned. So excellent that they've shared this data straight away. No cover-up here at all. No stigma. Why should there be stigma? It's a naturally occurring virus. Maybe if it had been... No, we won't go there. We'll just say it's a naturally occurring virus. So Cambodia shared the genetic sequence. Now 12 close contacts of the father and daughter were tested. The father was asymptomatic. He's now in isolation. So interesting, the father had the virus but was asymptomatic. Now, I think the logical explanation for this is because people get very sick with this virus. I imagine he'd been exposed to it before, quite possibly. Poultry-human interactions, of course, are common. But we don't know that for sure. The 11 other samples were negative, so that's very reassuring. So we've got 12 close contacts of this poor girl, and 11 of them tested negative. Now, that in itself is reassuring. If it had been very transmissible, then we would expect more of the 11 to get it. But further human cases can be expected in Cambodia, and indeed everywhere, as we get occasional cases, because it's going from poultry to humans directly. Just this Cambodia case, there's the 2 family members. The possibility of human-to-human transmission was there, but it looked like it hasn't happened. WHO advice. I actually agree with everything they say here. So personal protective equipment for poultry workers would be good if there's infected flocks. Registered and monitored closely for 7 days after working with the infected flocks to make sure they don't develop symptoms. Good idea. Currently, no vaccine is widely available against avian influenza in humans. So that's a pity. It's not there. But WHO poultry or bird workers, seasonal influenza vaccine should reduce the risk of reassortment. Now, what the risk is here is, of course, there's influenza going around. Now, if there's an ordinary influenza virus that someone caught at the same time, and then they caught the H5N1 from poultry, then this RNA virus mutates quickly, but it reassorts inside the cell. So if one cell was infected with an ordinary influenza virus and the H5N1 avian bird flu influenza virus, and those two combined inside one individual who was co-infected, then the possibility there is you could have some of the pathogenicity of the H5N1 combined with the transmissibility of the other influenza virus. That is quite possible. So vaccination for the influenza vaccines, vaccination for the influenza viruses that we do have some vaccines for would be a good idea in high-risk workers. Unfortunately, the influenza vaccines we have aren't as effective, not at all as effective as we would like. Cambodia CDC has confirmed this bird flu virus H5N1 cause of death from this child. This is in the southeast of Cambodia. There's not been any clear evidence of evidence of transmitting H5N1 for bird flu from person to person. So basically, we think this hasn't happened. Now, the Cambodian CDC have subclassified the clade. So the clade is the descent. So we would have the original H5N1 virus there. Then that would differentiate into many different types because it mutates quickly, and these would subdivide into other variants, or not subdivide but submutate. So the clade would be a grouping. So for example, that would be a clade. That would be a clade there. That'll be one clade, and then we have another clade there, for example. So this is the particular clade that's been identified. The figures don't mean much to us, but they've identified it and shared the sequence. And again, congratulations to the Cambodian authorities for doing that so quickly and transparently. If that had happened earlier on in other pandemics, like the COVID pandemic, the whole thing could have been prevented. Now, this same clade is circulating in Southeast Asia since 2014, so it's around. So Vietnam, Laos, countries that are close to Cambodia. Exactly the same clade or variety of the H5N1 is circulating. And the fact that there's been, 56 cases in Cambodia, but the fact that there's been so few indicates that it's just going from birds to humans, not from human to human, which is good that it's not human to human transmission. Other clades, other varieties of H5N1 detected in birds in many countries: Africa, Asia, Europe, North America, so basically all over the world. Now, the higher levels of infection, so it means there's lots of viral particles reproducing in many birds and wild animals. Increased geographical distribution, genetic diversification, more opportunity for mutation, more opportunity for co-infection and recombination with existing influenza viruses is the big risk. This is probably how the 1918-1919 pandemic started. Most academics consider that it probably started in a poultry farm in Kansas in the United States, although that is disputed. So in the UK we call it the Spanish flu. The Kansas flu is probably a more accurate description. How's it spread? Droplets, so it's in the air. Bird saliva and nasal secretions put it into the droplets. The birds breathe it out. Obviously, it goes onto the bird's feathers. When they flap their wings, it goes up into the air. It's transmitted in bird droppings, and it can be on fomites, things that have come in contact with the birds, and on surfaces as well. Also, of course, direct contact with birds. Now, there are examples of spread in meat. In Spain, for example, we believe that mink were fed with poultry that wasn't properly cooked, and it spread from mink to mink. So there's been mink to mink transmission in Spain. Time to close all mink farms. Of course, it's not acceptable. But there we go. They're still in some areas. If humans are eating poultry, then they won't get it, even if the poultry was infected. Not that we would advise it, of course. We would advise against it, but the heat will kill the virus. And the same would be true of eggs. Of course, we would recommend not eating the eggs, of course, if we knew they're from infected flocks, but the heat would actually kill the virus and make them no longer transmissible. Goes into the eyes, nose and mouth, as you would expect. Avoid any contact with wild birds. It goes without saying. But, maybe occasionally you do find a dead bird in your garden, and that's a potential source. The fact that it's died means it may well have died of the avian influenza, as millions of birds around the world have. Now, history of this virus, pretty interesting. First detected in chickens in 1959. China and Hong Kong outbreak in 1996. First detected in humans 1997. Now, 1997 Hong Kong, there was 18 cases, and a few of those a few of those were human-to-human transmission. So it can spread human-to-human, even unmutated, unrecombined. It's just unlikely. This outbreak has been detected in 50 million domesticated birds already. So basically, this is already a bird pandemic, and because it's in many different parts of the world, the potential for zoonosis is there in many different parts of the world. So there could be other outbreaks of this literally anywhere where poultry come in contact with humans. And given that we've got some circulating influenza at the moment anyway, there's the possibility that someone could be infected with the H5, the H5N1 Avian version and another version of influenza at the same time, giving the possibility of the recombination, which is the really worrying bit. Countless wild birds and animals detected in foxes, otters, seals and mink. Again, foxes will eat dead birds lying around, the scavengers. No evidence that I've read, and I have been looking for this, no evidence that I've read of fox-to-fox transmission. So I haven't heard of ongoing transmission in mammals. I think we assume that the cases in foxes, otters, seals, mink, there was mink-to-mink transmission, but of course they live in appallingly crowded conditions in these mink farms. So it's not surprising there really, but no evidence of fox-to-fox transmission or otter-to-otter or seal-to-seal transmission that I'm aware of. If I come across anything, of course, I'll let you know, but I haven't seen that. In the UK, all farm chickens are indoors. UK Health Security Agency says very high levels of transmission in wild birds. This is all over, I'm afraid. And there is an ongoing risk, according to the UK Health Security Agency. And there's a big problem here, really. This is a general point. I'm not picking on the United States here, but just to use it as an example. 10 billion animals killed for meat in 2022, according to popular press articles I've read. Imported 200 million live animals. I mean, heck, 10 billion. It's just astronomical, isn't it? Humans infected possibly at any stage in the meat supply chain is potential. 58 million birds have been culled in the States, and there's only been one human case in 2022, and they recovered. So I think we assume that the precautions being taken in the United States are better than in the poorer parts of the world, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, for example. So there we have that. The risk is there. It's not transmitting human to human at the moment. If it did, it would be a big concern, but that would represent quite a substantial genetic shift, probably due to recombination. Genetic drift is going on all the time with many different variants of this H5N1 influenza A virus evolving all the time. Right, I think I'll just... I've actually been involved in a few vaccination campaigns in Cambodia myself. So I wasn't directly involved in this one, but I was on a teaching trip back in 2010. This is Sihanouk Hope Hospital in Cambodia, which is an absolutely excellent facility where poor people can be treated free, absolutely first-class facility. These are some of my students in Sihanouk Life University in Sihanoukville, further south, and very attentive and hard-working. They were absolute pleasure to teach. This is my boss, Rotha. She's the matron. Drawing up the. This was actually during the H1N1 scare, 2009-2010. Fortunately, it didn't come to anything much, but good to see that they were ready for it in Cambodia. So very remarkable lady, completely committed to the healthcare of her people. Here we see some injections being given. Aspiration was performed as far as I remember. And this chap seems fairly happy about it. So Cambodia, country I love personally. Difficult rural areas, but there is a lot of clever people there now. Of course, when I first worked there in the early 80s, the Khmer Rouge, Pol Pot and the Angkor had killed all the doctors, killed all the nurses, killed all the lawyers, killed all the teachers, either that or that escaped. So when I was there in the early 80s, it was only the poorly educated people that were there, the country people that were there. Going back in 2010, 2011, 2012, those kind of times, you're actually meeting very sophisticated, highly educated Khmers, Cambodians. So it was great to see the recovery of the country. Now I keep meaning to tell you, but these books, all these posters, of course, and my personal textbooks that I've written, available for free download. This one's on physiology, this one's on pathophysiology. Click the link and download the PDFs, high resolution, completely free. Use them in your teaching, in your reading, and colour the pictures in. There's lots of pictures And basically, I spent about 3 years each writing these books. So I'm more than happy to make them available for free PDFs. We have printed thousands of copies, of course, in hard copy, but these days ebook seems to be the way to go. And there you go, learn about the systems of the body for yourself completely free. And the fact that this is free means it's probably one of the best. We've had about 500,000 downloads, I think, so it's good to know that they're being used. So I'll put the link on there. Don't be worried immediately about the influenza pandemic, the H5N1, but the potential is there, and we need to change our relationship with animals. I think might be one of the main takeaway messages from this. Okay, thank you for watching.